You go on a first date with someone, what habit or characteristic is a deal breaker? Spending the whole time on their phone. Had a first date with a guy once. At some point I asked him to look up something on his phone. I forget exactly what the context was, and he told me he had intentionally left his phone in his car for our date. Color me impressed. We dated for nearly a year. They only want to talk about themselves. I once had a 2-hour blind date. By the end, I knew everything about this girl. I knew all of her cats by name, and what their favorite movies were. She asked me literally nothing, and just kept jumping from topic to topic. At the end of the date, she wanted to trade numbers, and I couldn't help but ask what's my name? And she didn't know. So I just paid for my meal and left. I'm sorry, her cats had favorite movies? I'm imagining you going over to her place and a tabby rubs against your foot. Oh, you must be Matilda, who loves natural-born killers. Good choice. Oh, and is that Randolph? You really couldn't think of anything better than snakes on a plane? I hear situations like this a lot on Reddit, but I would argue that the person doing all the talking may see the silent person as a bad date for not having anything to say, forcing them to ramble for the entirety of the date. Not saying you were the bad date, just saying that there are two sides to every coin. Constantly talking about their exes. I feel like there's a balance needed. For my significant other and I, we were upfront about weird issues we brought with us from past relationships. Everyone has baggage. You gotta be able to talk about it so your new boo won't be confused when something unimportant to them stresses you out completely. I know there are things that would have really annoyed me, boo, because we talked about our past relationship issues. It was a lot easier to grow past it and be better with one another. Edit, to add some context, yes, it was our first date. We also live in NYC, so my theory that the city makes everything move at a quicker pace, even tough conversations about communication and emotional boundaries. They talk over me and spend the conversation giving me unsolicited advice about how to live my life. Edit, I feel like I need to specify that I was thinking of one specific first date that did not become a second date when I answered this, lol. The guy didn't like that I had dyed my hair blonde at the bottom and spent a lot of the date telling me about the dangers of bleaching your hair and how I should learn to make better choices. I just wanted to have a good dinner, man. Too much discussion about money. Not a date, but first time meeting my current GF's friends. The one's first question to me was, so what do you do for a living? How much do you make? I've never forgotten it and haven't cared for her since that moment. That actually happened to me once and I actually walked out of the date. Towards the end of university, I got drinks with this girl from Tinder. Off the bat, she asked what I did for work, and how much I was making. Prior to this, I was working 2 part-time jobs, but quit both of them when I began doing really well through my online business. She must have thought I was lying or it was some rinky-dink thing I was doing, despite me explaining, in detail, what I did. In a relatively hostile way, she then asked, "Do you have any plans with your life?" I politely began explaining some of the jobs I was applying for before she cut me off and said, "So, you have no plans with your future is basically what you're saying." Thankfully, I had a $50 bill in my pocket, so I reached in, slapped that sucker on the table, and just said, "Enjoy the French fries," and walked right out, lol. Lots of people get nervous on first dates, but blatant hostility and rudeness is unacceptable. Plus, this was a killer confidence booster and reminder that you'll always walk away scot-free, no matter how bad a date is. Someone who makes me read their bad poetry. This has happened to me more than once. Edit, as I just woke up to a bunch of responses and I can't possibly reply to them all individually. I don't hate poetry, I very much like it. especially vegan poetry. However, on a first date, there is a huge difference between, "Have you read this poem by X? What do you think of this bit? And here is my notebook, read it all and tell me what you think." Story bits for those who asked. The first time this happened I was 18 and we met through mutual friends. While it wasn't great, it wasn't emo angst levels of bad. Unfortunately he then started sending me poetry he had written about me and calling me his muse. This after having met once. He then went full stalker. So yeah. Nope. Second time was some years later. It was bad, but I was not mean about it. We continued chatting, then said goodnight politely and parted. The next day he went from "I had a really nice time, give me a call," to "I am sure you are busy, but please reply," to "clearly you are ignoring me, so let's never speak again," in the space of a 3-hour barrage of text messages. I was at work so I didn't see the messages till lunchtime. Getting so drunk on the first date that you can't figure out Uber and I have to drive you home. No, you can't stay on my couch, I don't know you. I did this once. That relationship ended up lasting 2 years though. Was going to just be a hookup, my first time doing that, so I got drunk to not be nervous, got too drunk, he took me back to his house and out me in pajamas and fed me pizza and held my hair while I puked. I thought he would never want to see me again, but he was cool about it. I was once set up to go on a blind date with this girl. We were given each other's email addresses and so I hit her up, we exchanged a few pleasantries, then set up a date/time to finally meet. The day of, I get an email from her in the morning with an attachment. I open up the attachment and there is a questionnaire with like 25 to 30 questions on it. She requested I kindly fill out the questionnaire before we meet. I quickly reviewed the questions before sending her a reply saying that it's probably best we don't meet. I don't know what characteristic she embodied, but I'd say that was a deal breaker. If they are hard to talk to, might not make them a bad person, but obviously there is no chemistry if all I get are one-word answers where they also don't reciprocate questions. So you're a teacher, right? Yep. Well, that's cool. What grade? 2 ND. Oh, what a great age. That's like the perfect time cause kids still kind of like school. Check please. Someone who doesn't ask about me. It shows that they don't actually care. I was so nervous that when he asked something, I would just talk about myself and I forgot to ask anything about him. Noticed it the second we ended the date. But we had a second one, I did get to ask him about himself and well, I really wish I hadn't. Edit, this is going to be really disappointing, it wasn't like one thing he said. He just turned out to be a bit creepy. He tried to convince me that his hobby is walking in the woods during dark nights. He really wanted me to go with him into the woods like immediately, and of course I didn't. He might have been sincere, but seriously, I'm not going to do that and he shouldn't have pushed me to do it. If he had said I really like to go into the woods when it's dark, I would have said wow, that's cool, and he could have told a bit about it. But you don't pressure someone to do it on the second date. He also had a problem with pretty much everyone in his workplace, except his boss, who told him every day that he is doing everything right. Yep, sounds normal. Being a know-it-all. I had lunch with someone who called the table salt sodium chloride and used the bread as a way to tell me everything he knew about complex carbohydrates, some of which wasn't even correct, and their connections to evolutionary theory. Just felt like he was compensating for something. Lying about their appearance. Very specific app example, guess which one? But you see their pictures, they look nice and then they are different in person. What's the point? Before I met my GF, my dating profiles were always included the following. An attractive picture of me. A picture of myself standing next to other people, for height purposes. A picture where you can absolutely see my face how it is with no sunglasses or some weird facial expression, or filter. Why does anyone filter on a dating profile? A joke, not very good looking photo of myself. You'd be amazed at the amount of men whose profile has A. No pics of them, just cars, random scenery, memes or their dog. If your dog is in every photo, you'd better be bringing that pup on the date. Or only has a pic of them in their car or with a dead fish. B. Pics where they are looking down at the camera or looking straight on with no smile, just resting I might kill you face and have no idea how intimidating they look. Or C. They have one or several blurry pics of themselves, out with their mates, obviously shit-faced, and don't say which one is them. If you like the content, please consider subscribing, and don't forget to hit the like button.